There are a lot of crazy things going on in the world of cryptocurrencies, but I was just fascinated by something that happened recently. You might know that Luna collapsed and went to zero, but what you might not know is that during this collapse, people were 25xing their money, doing something so simple, it shouldn't have worked. It's like they found a vending machine where every time they put in a penny, they got back a quarter. I'm not going to cover all of what happened in the Terra and Luna collapse. There's a lot we don't know yet and might never know, but here's the minimum you need to understand. This guy named Do Kwon co-founded Terraform Labs, which created two tokens, Luna and Terra USD. Luna is a token that you can buy and hodl and hope it goes up. That's not particularly interesting by itself. Terra, which I'm going to reference as UST, however, is supposed to be a stablecoin, where one UST should always be worth $1 US. But how does it stay at that number? The trick was that they promised you could always exchange one UST for $1 worth of Luna based on the current market rate. So if Luna is worth $100 each, then you could exchange 100 UST for 1 Luna. And if Luna somehow falls to 1 US cent each, then you could exchange 1 UST for 100 Luna. If UST is trading at only 98 cents, then someone could spend 98 cents to buy 1 UST, trade it for $1 worth of Luna, then sell that for $1, making 2 cents in the process. This would push the price of UST back up to $1. Obviously, you do this millions of dollars at a time, but that's the basic idea. This means that UST is propped up by Luna, kind of like how the Earth is held up by Atlas. At this point, you might be wondering, what's holding up Luna? Prophetically, this problem was pointed out by various people, like this person on Twitter. Here's Do Kwon's response. Anyways, back to the 25x trade. The day did come when UST fell below $1. Not a problem, right? You can just trade your USD for $1 worth of Luna, but in doing so, 1 UST is burned and $1 worth of Luna is newly created. It's a magic money printer that can generate as much Luna as needed to equal how much UST is burned. Well, UST kept falling, and at some point it dropped below 50 cents. Now, this is interesting because I can then take, say, $1 and buy 2 UST. Then I convert those 2 UST into $2 worth of Luna. At that point, May 11th, Luna had already dropped from $100 to about $1. So I get 2 Luna, then I sell those 2 Luna for $2, and I've turned $1 into $2. What a great deal. But remember I said this was a 25x trade? What happened? The next day, May 12th, Luna kept falling from $1 to 10 cents to eventually 1 cent. But something else very strange happened. The price of wrapped Luna on Coinbase Pro was much higher, a price dislocation. Not only was it higher, but it stayed around 5x higher than the official exchange rate. At the same time, UST kept falling, and at this point it was worth only around 20 cents. So you could take $1 and buy 5 UST. Then you could ask Terra to convert your 5 UST to Luna at a value of 1 cent per Luna. So you get 500 newly created Luna, which you could then sell on Coinbase for 5 cents each, and you'd end up with $25. If you had infinite appetite for risk, you could take your $25 and buy 125 UST and start the cycle all over again. Now, I want to point out a few things here. It's very dangerous to keep putting all your money in this magic money machine because you know that at some point the music will stop when the chain halts or they refuse to convert UST into Luna. This happened sometime around May 13th. This is also dangerous because if a lot of people are doing this, the price of Luna will crash faster than you can convert your UST, transfer it to Coinbase and sell it, so you might lose money in the end. And of course, this didn't last forever. But during most of May 12th, the combination of a floating UST and Coinbase price dislocation meant that you could get anywhere from 3x to 25x of whatever you put into this trade, or even higher if you got lucky with timing. I'm honestly not sure why the price stayed up so high on Coinbase. In order for that to happen, someone actually has to buy your wrapped Luna. And who would do that when they could just buy UST at a discount and exchange it for much more Luna? I can think of a few ideas. The first is that the Luna Foundation promised to lend their Bitcoin to market makers to prop up the price. Basically, they were going to spend their own finite amount of money to buy an infinite amount of Luna, and maybe some of that money ended up at Coinbase. The second hypothesis is that it was much more difficult to trade on Coinbase. You need a Coinbase account, and you need to swap Luna for wrapped Luna, then send it to a Coinbase account. This friction, plus the fact that the Terra chain was on pause for a while, put a bottleneck on how quickly people could dump Luna on Coinbase. The third explanation is that retail investors were buying Luna, thinking that it could go up. After all, it was worth $100 just a couple weeks ago. If I buy 1 million Luna now and it goes back up, I'd have $100 million, right? Like I said earlier, this makes no sense because going the UST route would get you much more Luna for the same cost. Judging by posts on Reddit, I sadly think this was part of it. What these lunatics didn't know, however, was that as people were either playing this trade or simply trying to get out of UST, the Luna money printer was printing money at an ever-accelerating rate. As Luna dropped, each UST converted to a higher and higher amount of Luna. The total number of Luna used to be steady around 340 million. During the crash, it increased to 1 billion, then 10 billion, 100 billion, 1 trillion, and finally to 6.9 trillion Luna, a 20,300 times increase. So that's the story of how, as Luna was crashing, arbitragers saw an opportunity to make huge profits. I hope you found this video interesting. It's essentially an arbitrage opportunity that was unusually large. And it also has some similarities to Black Wednesday, when traders like George Soros made huge profits while the United Kingdom tried to prop up the pound. If you lost a significant amount of money in Luna, I want to tell you that you'll bounce back. In a few years, this will just be a crazy story you tell at parties. If you're in the US, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Or search for your country plus crisis helpline for a local number.